Sergeant H.B. McClain of the Sheriff's Department, and we sure appreciate your time that you're giving us today. And we're also here with Steve Barber, who's done some extensive acoustical work concerning the involvement that they tried to get you involved in H.B. McClain. And we're also here with Greg James, video consultant to the Patsy Paschal film. And Sergeant McClain, when did you start for the Dallas Police Department?
1953.
And what capacity were you hired at
I was patrolman.
Patrolman. And at what point did you switch over to the Sheriff's Department?
Well, I switched over to Sheriff's Department in 1981 after I retired from the city.
From the city. And of course, on November 22nd, 1963, you were working at that time?
Yes, sir.
And what was your assignment for that day?
I was in the motorcade for the President's escort.
And as you went through the downtown area, of course we know that as you went down Main Street and then the motorcade proceeded down Houston and went down Elm, there were shots fired at President Kennedy. And was there a particular point in time that you heard any shots, or at what point did you know that something had happened?
You know, I was stopped in about midway of the block there on Houston while they were turning the corner.
Midway on Houston?
Yeah, I was sitting still.
And then did you speed up again and head for the hospital?
Not until the chief come on the radio and said, head for Parkland.
Head for Parkland. It's been 32 years, but is there any type of time frame from that point that you would have headed to the hospital?
From the time he said that?
From the time you stopped?
Oh, maybe a half a minute.
Half a minute? Okay.
A minute, something like that. Time enough, there was about 6 cars, I guess, had made the corner.
So your basic assignment was to ride with the motorcade, and then you proceeded on to Parkland Hospital.
Yeah.
And what did you do at Parkland Hospital?
Well, I helped get Miss Kennedy out of the car after we got out there. She didn't want to get out, so I finally got to help her get out and walked her on into the hospital. And I turned around and come back outside and stood around until there was somewhere else for us to go.
I imagine it was mass confusion.
Well, I wound up escorting Johnson back out to the airport to go back to Washington.
When you arrived at Parkland, were you able to see President Kennedy or Governor Conway?
Yeah. You couldn't tell a whole lot about Kennedy because she was laying across his head. But I didn't make no effort to look. They kept trying to get her to let them have him so they could take him on in. And I just reached over and caught her by the shoulders, so come on, let them take him on in. And got her out of the car, and I walked her on in the hospital.
And then after that, you just came back to police headquarters?
Yeah. And then whenever they finally decided that he was dead and that Johnson carried him back out to Air Force One, and he was sworn in out there as president.
And when we talked on the phone, you had some reservations about Lyndon Johnson, or did you feel that maybe there was some that he had a dislike for the Kennedys, or is that something you said on the... No? Okay. All right.
I don't comment on that.
Okay. And then, of course, later, basically, there wasn't any attention drawn to you until in the 70s, and you were contacted by the House Select Committee on Assassinations?
Well, yeah, first, though, they started looking for an scapegoat for that microphone. And they wanted to know where I was at. I told them where I was at. They said, that's a perfect spot.
Did you, when they contacted you, did they tell you everything they were interested in or what it was about? And
no.
No, they did not. Okay. Then you got a subpoena, or was it a summons to go to Washington?
It was just a summons.
It was a summons. But they, and they were questioning you about where you're at in the motorcade and if it could have been your microphone that was stuck open. Is that what they were doing? But they did not let you hear the...
No, I asked them if I could hear the tapes, and they said, no, you don't need to hear them. And they asked me, could be answered as a possible.
Mhm.
They could all be answered possible.
Possible. But what would you have told them if they would have allowed you to hear the dictabelt recording?
I tell them, hell no, it wasn't my radio.
And the reasons you would have given them for that are?
Because I could hear what was going on. And I also could tell that the microphone was on the three-wheeler, not on the solo.
And wasn't there something about sirens that would have been on that recording?
Well, according to the other, on the recording, it showed the sirens coming up and going away.
They have a video from the motorcade procession that they said was you reaching down to turn on or switch on your microphone, and that's where they got the idea that they thought it was your stuck open microphone. Can we play a segment for you, and you can let us know whether that is you or not? Why don't we play that, and we can find out if that's you or not in the motorcade procession.
All right.
Sergeant McClain, we just would like you to look at this film of a motorcycle officer on Main Street approaching Houston and find out if this could be you.
Yeah, it could be.
Now, the person is reaching down. Where was your microphone
He
switch?
wasn't reaching down. He just laid his hand across it. You can see his hand on the inside of his leg.
Okay. And the microphone would have been...
My microphone's up on the crossbars, on the handlebars, up on the right-hand side.
I see.
Okay, Mr. McClain, we just got through seeing the segment that showed what may be you reaching down, doing something on the motorcycle, and you say that that is, it couldn't be the microphone because your microphone was up on the handlebars.
That's right.
Okay, that's a good point that we wanted to establish. Okay, when you made the turn from Main Street onto Houston, in the Hughes film, and I believe that you were shown frames of that in the House Select Committee, you said that was you that was swinging wide around the corner, and you could see Mayor Cabell's car in the background. You know what I'm talking about?
They're swinging around on to Houston, yeah.
Right. Now, how far down Houston Street did you go before you changed the pace of your motorcycle speed?
About midway of the block, and I stopped.
And what caused you to stop at that point?
Well, the traffic had slowed up because they was making their turn onto Elm Street. And there's no need me running up there and getting in that because they got to make their turn. And if they make their turn and take off, then I pull on up.
So it was customary that if the rest of the motorcade stopped, you would generally stop where you were
Right.
at in the motorcade.
Right.
Okay, now while you were stopped, did you notice anything?
Yeah.
Okay, did you notice anything pertinent to the assassination while you were stopped?
I heard one shot. I looked up, seen all that bunch of pigeons fly off behind that school book depository.
Did you notice anything else while you were stopped?
No. Well, I turned back around and seen Miss Kennedy up on the back of the limousine.
And you saw her over the wall, or how were you able to see her?
You can see through that. It's sort of like lettuce work, but you can see through it in places.
You're referring to the square ornamental holes that are in
Yeah.
the wall. And you could see Mrs. Kennedy
Yeah.
at that point?
About that time, the chief come on the radio and said, head for Parkland.
Okay, now as you discussed in your House Select Committee, you thought your microphone was set on channel 1.
I said it could possibly be.
Right, now, do you know what channel the chief broadcast that on?
Right now, no, I couldn't.
Okay, I think they determined in the House Select Committee that was on channel 2.
We had 1 and 2, and it's been a while.
Right. So if your microphone was on channel 1 and it was stuck on, as some people say, would you be able to hear him say that over your radio?
No, you couldn't hear anything. Maybe a lot of static.
Okay, now, when you did hear the chief say to go to the hospital, at that point, what did you do?
I took off, headed for Parkland
Okay, when did you turn your siren on?
immediately.
This is while you were on Houston Street?
Now well, probably not, because it was foot operated, and you got to have speed for it to work. And I imagine it was after I got on Elm Street where I could get a little speed to make it make a noise.
Now, when you reached the triple underpass, do you think that you had your siren on at that point?
I know I did.
Okay, and And then was there any cars on the ramp or any confusion on the ramp that would have blocked your way as you were trying to catch
No,
up?
because they had all that blocked off because that's the way the procession was gonna go.
And you caught up, I believe you said in your House Select testimony that you caught up with the motorcade at the Hyatt House or the Continental Street.
Right along in there, yes.
Okay, now were the other motorcycles sirens operating?
Yeah.
Okay, their sirens were going and your sirens were going.
Right.
And then did your siren continue all the way to Parkland Hospital?
Yeah. It was louder at points that whenever we had to slow up to make a turn or something other, it would get quieter because you can't keep it going while you're turning.
How long do you think it took you to get to Parkland Hospital from, say, the Triple Underpass?
Let's say a minute and a half,
Okay.
maybe 2 minutes.
The sounds that would be recorded on a stuck microphone that would be different from a, what you call a solo motorcycle or a three-wheeler?
Well, whatever sound is on the three-wheeler, it's real, what you'd say, loose, chattery like. And on the solo, it just hits a solid lick. The three-wheeler sound like a thrashing machine.
Is there any doubt in your mind that perhaps there was more to it than just Lee Harvey Oswald, or how do you feel? As an investigative officer, I ask all the law enforcement officers that I've interviewed how they feel as far as how the evidence went down, and do they feel that, with Oswald's activities in Russia and different things he was able to do, and the physical evidence, is there anything that you question or that you're wondering about?
Yeah, I question about him being the only one involved, because I've done a little hunting of my own, and I've never shot anything that went away from me and then come back to me. Usually they hit the ground rolling if they're running, or they just fall. But on these films I've seen, it shows his head going away from the school book depository and then coming right back. I feel like that there's somebody over on that railroad track shot him the second time.
One of the things they did put into the evidence was a bullet that had went through Kennedy and hit Governor Conway, and it caused a total of 7 wounds, and it lost less than 2 grains of lead. How do you feel about that?
Is that one that done all that zigzagging?
Yeah. Well, I know bullets do strange things, but the point is a bullet out of the box weighed 161 grains, and the one they
But
found...
if it hits something other to ricochet, it's going to batter that bullet. And the way I understand it, that was a perfect bullet.
The tip of it was, yes. The base of it was flattened slightly.
Do you have any evidence that the bullet did zig around? I mean, do you know anything?
No,
about
I don't. I didn't have nothing to do with the investigation part
just
of it.
know
All
what
I've
you've
done
heard.
was escort it, and what I've seen on these all different various tapes. And
So you have no particular knowledge of the path of the bullet
No.
other than what the general public has seen?
Well, thank you very much, Sergeant McClain. We really appreciate your time and
All
effort, and we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay.